Hey everyone, Daivangasai just finished, and I'm actually quite curious about some of the new decks that were popping up in the tournament and the Ultimate CS afterwards, because Festival Collection was actually allowed to be used. And for the standard portion, for Tri-Reg, it wasn't allowed. But yeah, Festival Collection has always been a very impactful set, so I kind of want to see, even though they release like not as many cards, a lot of the cards just have a lot of value and have a lot of impact. So I'm interested to see what kind of changes people have been editing to their decks. So we're just going to go through that. And then there was, I think, Bulgaria for BSF, so we'll take a quick look at that too. But what I'm going to kind of go through is just all the decks kind of popped up, and then we're going to look at some of the interesting ones, right? So let's kind of get started. So Daivangasai was split into Block A and Block B, because they always get, like, a lot of people. I was about to say billions, but that's a bit too exaggerated. Here is the overall breakdown of what made Top 16. Of course, there is Diversity Cut, and I'll kind of point out where the cuts are at, but there are so many, like, good Tier 2, Tier 3 decks. Well, not Tier 2, but, like, second and third decks at the moment, and even, like, the top tier deck, like the number one deck, I feel like is still relatively up for debate. That the format is generally quite, unsolved still, at least for standard. You can see like the top breakdowns here, like Varga, Raziel. Like Raziel got a huge buff with all the cards that came out. And then we have like Shiranui, Zorga, and Drujul like at the 6 and the 5 area, but then everything else is still pretty much there as well. So yeah, we'll kind of go through all the blocks. So we'll go through block A first, and then we'll go through Block B. The overall decks that made it through, we have is, well, there's a lot of Zorgas, a lot of Razzle. I'm probably not going to just say every single teammate, but I'll point out some interesting ones. In terms of, yeah, but we've seen all the top representation, right? Like, we had the Varga, the Raziel here, the Shiranui as well. What was the other one? Shiranui, the Zorgas. Yeah, Zorgas also popping up quite big time. And then we have different fights team here, Bushiro Pro, as you can see. They brought something really weird. So we have the normal Zorga, we have the Ava. Ava's really been popping up. It's actually quite surprising that Ava didn't make it into the top 3 teams. But, top 3, I guess, is quite... It's quite a small amount. And then a Kyorka as well. So hard to play Kyorka. This is a pretty strong diversity team, right? Only Ava is probably not like a good diversity deck, but it's a good deck, so that's just as good, right? But then here they didn't really have to go diversity because top 3 had like none of their decks. They didn't have the Zorga because they brought old Zorga, so we'll kind of probably talk about that slightly. And then onwards we start having the weird decks. So you see you got Mushi Kings, the Almagesters, right? Leonorn, here's an Ava as well, but because no Avas are there, free diversity. Drujulds are also quite popular. And then, Wellstra, of course, Mygo, got that now, so we can play that. But yeah, here we get all the, Rapé, the team. Yeah, and then I think here we have, Buntai, 68. Yeah, but yeah, so Leonon, Raziel, a lot of pretty common decks, but again, as you can see, there's just so many. There's so many decks out there. The diversity, it's kind of, I don't know, like it definitely does affect it, but there's so many decks out there that at the same time, well, it really depends on where the diversity cut is at. I know some of the other tournaments, the diversity cut is at like 6, but it's only at 3, so a lot of decks just make it in, right? And then what actually won was the Varga Chaos and Shiranui team, followed by the Seraph, right? Pretty cool. Seraph, Luad, and Varga. And then Leonorn, Ava, and Shiranui. And then Team China with Raziel, Leonorn, and Zorga. So we're going to kind of look through some of the interesting decks. So first off, we have is the Luad deck. This is the one that came, like, I think, earlier in Swiss, right? So I think around here. This one actually, first place in Swiss, this one actually caught my eye. Running 4 Diorings. So I know a lot of people hyped this up at the beginning when Luad was released because you can salvage PGs. And then later on they realized, oh, this is kind of bad. Let's not run it. And now it's back at 4. So pretty interesting. A highly defensive deck, right? So 4 Diorings to be able to salvage all of that. But then we've got 2 Patcherus as well to kind of stop the multi-attacks too. So actually quite curious. Like, such a strong, like bigger defensive builds seem to be very valuable. Also running the light OT. So this one, destroys all Guardians. But I think the main key thing that makes this card really good is that if you trigger it early game, you draw like 4 cards. You can drop like 4 cards, like OT, and then if there's like they have full empty spots and they no guarded it, you draw 4 cards, and that's pretty significant in the early game. Drawing 4 cards means that like the rest of the game is set. So I don't know, it's quite interesting, right? And then quite a few more defensive options. So your extra shield, Blitz Order. Everyone is now running this card, this kind of Blitz Order Regalia, because I probably just because it's like an energy outlet, but it's also just so splashable everything and just kind of adds extra defense. So I'm guessing that's quite, I think that's cool. Right, I think that's cool. And then yeah, some more defensive stuff there. So overall a very defensive Loire deck and able to come out at least first in Swiss, right? The next deck we want to look at is the Zorga. So I think this is if you've been looking at top decks recently, this is kind of like this new age Zorga kind of build where they totally cut the RPDs and just run 4 of the I think is it a snail? Right, is a snail thing? So the reasoning I talking to Chris about it. The reasoning for this is because the timing for this card is in the battle phase, while RPD is main phase. You do have more space to like Shadow Cloak spam, which I guess makes a lot of sense. And then overall, I guess you just get like so much power and with just Zorga and Nadir that maybe it just doesn't really matter that you need the RPDs. You can just hit hard and then, hey, these something like what does this card technically lose to? I guess like not much, right? It only loses to a Tazel Age. And if they don't have Tazel Ages, then it's good, right? It's good. So I guess it just always come out, always get a crit, and then it just has better timings than Roaming Prison. You'll face the same problem where like if you don't see the snail at all, then your deck kind of sucks. But you know, are you gonna run 4 more RPDs or like 2 more RPDs to kind of make it more consistent? Maybe. I think that's up to you. But yeah, I guess this also doesn't allow an aggressive early game with RPDs than you normally might. But maybe you can just kind of solve that problem by just playing a normal game and Zorga just pumping through it all, right? So I guess there's that. So pretty cool. Then next we have the Choroshka's build, so part of DF's team. So this is, again, like I'm still going to say, it's going to be a full diversity deck. He ran blue Zorga here, and then just run the normal ride line, because you can't run the new one if you're running blue Zorga. But I think what he actually does is you just have this in the deck, in the ride deck, and you can just ride a normal, like a Zorga Nadir from hand. Because, you know, if it's like kind of the same thing, if you think about it. If you discard for ride, it's still like a -1, while, riding from hand is also technically a -1, so just draw the Nadir, right? And then the worst case scenario is that if you don't draw the Nadir, blue Zorga is not the worst, right? It's not the best, but you can at least still do something. So it kind of helps you with diversity. It's not the worst if you miss it, but just don't miss, right? Just don't miss, hopefully. And it's all good. So that's the reason why. I also notice a lot of these decks play like 1 copy of the Lascari order, which I think is like fine as well, because again, like Zorga overall doesn't really use that much energy. It's like an energy blast 2, right? So technically you're energy plus every turn. So having one of this just lets you play more defensive decks, and it'll help out with things like the Black Demai matchup where you just have to hard guard with high defensive stuff. So also running only three of the snail, which is quite interesting. Next is DF's deck. So, well, I'm pretty sure DF can explain his deck better as well. He can probably explain his whole team better, so I'll leave the more detailed explanations for him. But as you can see, surrounding some of these blitz orders, again, pretty good in the Black Demai matchup, because this guy is basically like 30k shield, right? Because you rest 3 with like the Ava order. Can probably get bigger. Can actually probably get bigger because you're on the monster order as well. So overall, pretty interesting. Congrats to DF as well, coming top 8 and getting his Masanori crest. Alright, pretty cool. And then Harpin's Kyorka list. So, what I was told is that this list, not many people even knows what Kyorka does. And I'll be honest, the only thing I know about Kyorka much is that when she had 4 magazines, her deck was pretty bad. And now when she has 8 magazines, the deck works way better. So now that, yeah, they have 2 sets of magazines, you want to make like, I think you make a field of like 2 grade 3s, 2 grade 2s, and 2 grade 1s, and then beautiful effects happening, can make 4 attacks. So overall, pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. Satisfies diversity matchup. Also can be quite aggressive and especially against people who just don't know what the deck does, you can probably scam off wins like that and do pretty well. So overall, quite cool, quite cool. And then we have some Almagestas. So if you haven't realized, I can probably zoom in more. The Almagesta deck has been popping up quite a bit. I don't really know how good it exactly is, but it seems kind of cool, right? It's finally cool seeing this deck actually doing something compared to before. Overall, because like Bifrons is just an insane card, you can play a bit more aggressive as well. They're running Dark OT for this too, so able to get a heal, which is nice. And then an extra attack as well. Also running the new Elemental Sanctitude. So, yeah. Overall, pretty interesting deck. There were a few of these popping around, but we'll see. We'll see. This one runs like Clean Sweep and all that. So, maybe not as normal of a deck. But normal is hard to explain when it comes to Almagesta, right? And then Draguled. So, what is the change to Draguled? Well, we see Bifrons with the new Sanctitude now that you can run. That's pretty much it from Festival Collection. You can probably change an OT as well, but you know, blue OT, red OT, I think is all pretty good for Draguled. So not bad. And then lastly for Block A, we have that Seraph list. So this is running the Taser Lages. So 3 Taser Lage able to just satisfy the Zorga matchup, which is pretty good. Then running all the new multi-attack support, Derry Violet for the Black Demise support, and then all the 4-ofs here and all that. So I think overall pretty nice in the new Sanctitude, so you can get really, really defensive here. And also the Melty Heart, just shutting down multi-attacks. So pretty cool, pretty cool. Onto Block B. So Block B, again, kind of shows the same kind of things. Like, definitely less Shiranui, but we have like 7 Zorga, 6 Razael, 6 Varga, all the top decks right there. 5 Blangdamai, and then like 5 Shiranui. All of that working out quite well. And then I think the diversity cut was at 4 for this one. Some interesting decks did like pop up. Like you can see Lascaria coming in the 2nd place team. I think most of these decks are quite like meta. I guess Ash playing Draguled is not the most meta of the meta. And then here you see, so yeah, 5 onwards is when the diversity starts, because there's no Welstra, right? There's no Welstra in top cuts, and no Ava again, right? No Ava. Okay, wow, okay. But yeah, so on 5 onwards is the diversity. There's random Morphonica here. It's quite, I guess, quite surprising. A Chronojet as well. Wow, okay. Chronojet is back. Rhinon, yeah, I can see that back. Seraph, another Lascaria. Tamura as well. Fortunately, I'm probably not going to do the Tamura one just because it's so easy to build. And then lastly, we have Team Indonesia invited. All right, and then Shamo. But the rest of this top 16 for Block B. Block B felt like the sweaty one, right? Everyone is trying the best deck, right? Which you should. You should. There's no reason not to. And then the winners were actually Zorga, Black Demi, and Welstra. Then 2nd place was Razael, Varga, and Draguled. 3rd was Happy. Is that cat meme? But Razael, Seraph, and then Zorga, and then we have the Varga, Shiranui, and Maigo. So pretty nice. Let's take a look at something interesting. So actually the Varga deck has changed, because you have the new order here, which either lets you draw 2 or countercharge. But I can tell you that countercharging is a big deal in Varga, right? This deck actually uses a lot of CB, and if it's not careful, you can just get CB locked. This will help you with that. Sure, the Grail is also pretty good because it gives you Persona Blast, and you want a Persona Blast with Varga just to pump up your powers a bit more. But, countercharging is maybe the difference between being able to play a turn and not playing a turn. The other interesting cards is the Dual Nation one now. So this gives Dragon Empire, well, when it comes into play, you can get plant tokens. So you can actually play hyper aggressive in a way. You just pop this down, make tokens, 15-15. That's a pretty nice column. Later on, you can like kind of move them up and then attack with them and then just retire them from Varga's effect, because they're overall just like free cards, right? I don't think you'll use the other 2 effects just because CB1 is quite heavy. This one, the first effect will give all your rearguards called by effects, I think, right? 5k, which is just, okay, that's just pretty much a Shura, right? Just Shura. And then the second effect, you give your Vanguard plus 5k, and then if you have 4 more units, plus 10k instead. So I guess that's cool, but Varga already hits pretty big. I just think he's here to give Dragon Empire some plant tokens so it can be aggressive. It's like it's like kind of a mushroom. It's kind of like Burrow Mushroom in a way. Yeah, and they're running light OT as well. So light OT, normally they're on blue, but again, like I said, there's technically never a bad time to trigger the light OT, which I think gives it a lot of power. Then here we have the Lascaria list. So I think also if you've been looking at the Lascaria list from top decks, these have been quite common in that you just slam in all the Valeno stuff and all the new Valeno stuff and your deck is pretty much complete. Just make sure you are running the Chili Crit, right? Because the Chili Crit is the best crit out of the lot. But otherwise, you know, we've seen the Sensationalism and all that. That just lets you at least have a half-decent finisher turn. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Lascaria. And then lastly, you have the Shiranui. So why are we looking at Shiranui? So again, we see some extra changes with the Dual Nation cards. This one is with Dragon Empire Dark States. So this will give us Soul Charge, which is... It's quite important, right? Soul Charging is pretty important in Shiranui just because you use Soul so much. And I feel like probably the other two just aren't that good. I guess you can retire a card for CB1, which if there is truly annoying cards that you need to retire, they have to be grade 2 or higher though. So it's probably more intercepts. And then you can also call out a grade 2 or less card from Missile. So I think that might be pretty good. Because you have like Shenris going into Soul, and then you can kind of call them out and just get more power there. But it looks like this guy is not even running Shenris. So I don't really, there doesn't seem to be that many crazy targets here in case you maybe accidentally Soul Charge like one of these restanders. But apart from that, I think it's just there for the Soul Charge one, you know. So pretty nice. And then the Dark OT to make multi-attacks. And then finally, we also have the tri-format results. I'm kind of curious about tri-format results, I'm not going to lie, because I'm curious about what Japan is doing with Premium, right? So we'll kind of take a look at it, but the first thing that stands out to me is the first place team running Chrono Tiger, Chrono Fang, in their V Premium spot. I'm like, really? I think everyone else, at least second and third, got the memo where they're running Gurgit, and then fourth place is like, okay, I don't like Gurgit mirrors. I'm gonna play something I like, which is Tavis. But then, out of nowhere, this guy comes out. It's like, hey, I'm playing, I'm playing the Fang. Premium decks all look pretty meta in terms of the archetypes. Let's kind of take a look at them. So first off, we have that Chrono Fang. I mean, we got to give the Chrono Fang some respect. It somehow made it, right? And like it has a bunch of minus defensive power stuff, which I feel like is good. But then against Gurgit, who gets a free top 5 check. But I guess if they don't get like a PG, it's still super hard to guard, right? So okay, I can kind of dig that. Then next we have is the Shiranui. So this is Crest Nui for Premium, right? So I feel like they realized, you know, the Japan side realized this is a pretty good deck, right? And you can run a lot of the deck without needing any old cards. So I guess that's another nice plus. And then over here we have the Grand Blue one, the Night Rose. This is kind of puzzling for me because when I look at this, they run 1 of the TD Night Rose and then 3 of the PV, right? Like promo Night Rose. So they're all old Night Roses, but doesn't that just make your bad bounty turn really average? Because you'll probably just ride onto one of these, right? Just the Night Rose, and then do absolutely nothing. Like, there's no V Night Rose, and I feel like a lot of decks should be running at least 1, so you can make better finishers, right? But yeah. Night Rose. I think that's the only like weird gripe I have with this list is that, yeah, where is the V Night Rose? I feel like that would be way better than just having like 3/1 TD Night Rose. Right. And then onto the Highlander list. So seeing a Chris Rain here, but overall this Highlander list is actually quite straightforward. It's cool to see like they're able to include some of the new stuff, even like a Chris Rain, then some of the Denial Griffin kind of things. The hand, not really the hand traps, right, but like the bounces. So pretty cool to see this in action. And then lastly, we have an NLK. So this NLK is just straight up normal NLK, I guess. Just go into NLK Barrel Fairfax kind of thing, and just do that. So overall, like pretty cool list. But we don't stop there. There's also a ultimate tournament that happened that I kind of want to look at because it is singles and happened the day after Daivangasai, which means might be some interesting techs. And as far as I know, Festival Collection was allowed. So let's take a look. So first off, we have 4th place. We have Chad. So this one is actually, this is actually quite interesting, and it kind of emphasizes what the format might be moving into. We're going to move this to deck logs to make it a bit easier to read, but we see some new techs where we have this Nun. Right, and this is from the new Festival Collection, and this Nun, Soul Blast 1 insert your deck for this order, and this is like the defensive order where when you get attacked, right, you can pick one of your reguards and put them to the Guardian Circle, and then when this card is retired, give it the red text. When this card is retired, it just like binds, right? So you can really get around a lot of guard restrict effects as long as your card doesn't just die on the board, which is a bit intimidating in some ways because you can put a PG down and then just kind of move it there with this effect and then just bypass all the guard restricts. So pretty crazy, pretty crazy. Then onto the 3rd place, we actually have a Black Demire. And this is actually just quite straightforward. Nothing, no really cute gimmicks there. It's just a strong deck. So in 2nd place, we have Debo, who is running an Ava list. And our top 2 is pretty much both Ava lists. But they're running 2 different Blitz orders. So this one is the one that I think Chris runs as well. It's the one where it gets 10k for every rested card in your order zone. So you get pretty massive. And this is just a power beater. But then 1st place is running a different one. But overall, it's just which Blitz order do you like? You just need some because it's pretty good against some matchups. And yeah, so pretty cool, pretty cool. And then we can take a look at Chad's deck. So I'll point out the cards that is pretty interesting. So this is the main thing, the Nun, Soul Blast 1. You can search for the order and then give it, it just places this in the order zone. And then this one will call out, you know, cards and then move them to the Guardian Circle and then bind them afterwards. So you can get like multiple uses of like PGs, for example. You'll PG, put them back to deck, and then you can use the wand to like call them out, right? And then you have this to kind of use them again. As long as you're playing against a deck that's not very retires your board or your back row, those specific cards, right? And then you also running the Pot of Greed, which has like extra energy charge, is pretty good, like, to be fair. Because you don't really care about power, right? You're not going to run the Grail. You don't have really grade 3s to call out. There's not that many stuff that you need a ladder for anymore. So having just the extra counter charge, I guess, and the option to draw is just pretty nice. And then moving on to... And then for top 8 here as well in the same tournament, we have a pretty interesting Razal list that copies the same thing where you have one of this. But I think the cool thing about this one is that you can call cards back. So you can call things like PGs back and then like bind them, which is cool, right? Which is cool. And then you still have like the Selgaon combo and all that, so you're pretty sweet to go. And then lastly, we have Bulgaria. So Bulgaria, missing some info, but we can see the decks, right? Which is quite important. I'm pretty sure people will just post more up at top decks as well. First place kind of weird. We got Minerva, Messiah, and then Shiranui. Like, it's actually crazy that Shiranui is not in everything. So 4th place is like no Shiranuis. There's only one Luard as well. There's only one Luard, right? 2nd place, you have the Prism, Shiranui, and Youthberg. And then 3rd place, you have the ultimate meta combo at the moment, which is Shiranui, Luard, and Prism. Bear in mind, there's no Selgaon available yet. And then 4th place is the weird one, where it's just totally non-meta, right? So we've got Seraph, Bastion, and Armenia Guzium, right? But then in Tri-Reg, we have some interesting stuff. So, hey, you know, the V stuff is pretty established. Oranges, Gurgits, and Night Rose. Then in D, though, like an Orphis and a Thegria. Pretty weird. And then a Shiranui, but then you have Prism, which kind of has a pretty good matchup against Shiranui. So, and pretty much a good matchup against a lot of other things, too. Then Premium got some interesting things. So, Night Rose, Katrina, and Shiranui are all kind of like normal, right? But we have an interesting Shiana build that we'll probably look more at on Thursday. I think Dave posted the list so we can have a good gander at it and see how it goes. But yeah, this is definitely pretty crazy. Shiana in Premium. I really like to see this kind of innovation, so hopefully more of this comes as well. So with that, that's all the kind of decks this week. Quite a interesting bunch. I'm really interested to see how like Festival Collection is just going to change the meta with all the kind of defensive options you can have. This is like the first week. I can guarantee you people haven't had enough time to test it because you literally just buy the cards. You don't know if you can even obtain the cards, right? So you don't know if you play it in such a big tournament. But as the format goes on, as more testing gets done, I think we'll find some very interesting decks and more defensive decks. So hopefully everyone else will just go to time when they play Vanguard now in JP format. So that's it with me. Let me know in the comments what you think below, and I'll see you all next time. All right, bye.